Hello. Anyone around here speak basketball?
This is Abby Silver.
Trust in Messiah. Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast.
Oh, shit, I'm late.
I tried to hold it there, Matty.
So many buttons, so little time. Sorry
Right.
there, Fred.
No worries. I am Freddie Rivas, the host of this podcast, and my super talented producer to my left or right, depending on how you're seeing this, I guess.
Yeah.
Maddie, introduce yourself. Tell people what's up.
I am the producer, Matt Duncan. Freddie, I am the man on the keys today. And how are you doing? We are getting closer to the start of the season. Can't wait.
We are getting very close. I think we're sort of merging out of the summer whatever blah. And I think things are getting more basketball-y and less rumory, which I always love this kind of part of the basketball calendar because you gotta your takes have to be a bit more grounded, I feel like. But how are you doing, first of all?
I'm doing pretty well, I will say. I'm always talking about the weather. It's always like, is it a snowblower or a lawnmower type of feel?
Sure.
And I feel like we're getting closer to the snowblower again. I'm getting pretty excited.
Yeah, it's a big time. That's a big time for you. First snow, Maddie's out there with a little Bailey's in the coffee. And he is just going to town. Maddie, do everyone a favor.
Yeah.
Let me first just say, if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, or you're back, we are hardcore Raptors fans. We're with Raptors Republic. We have comedians, analysts, actors, basically anyone that's a basketball nut is welcome on the show. But if people want to help us, join our Patreon, all that good podcast stuff, how can they do that, Maddie?
Well, as always, check out raptorsrepublic.com for all the great in-depth sports writing, as well as our podcast and all the other shows on the Rapcast. If you're watching the segments we put on YouTube, please like, please subscribe, please comment. And to listen to the full episodes of the Confederacy of Dunks, subscribe to the Rapcast on your favorite podcatcher and enjoy. Now, you can also check us out on our own website, dunkspodcast.com, where you can watch, listen, and send us emails. And thanks for all the feedback. Thanks for the love. And season 10 is coming out when the season starts.
Beautiful. Well, I think we are basically set to go, but I will say, as I've been saying for some time now, free Brittany Griner. If it's something you're not familiar with, go ahead and have a look into it. It's an ongoing travesty, and hopefully Brittany will be free at some point in the near future. We're hoping. But I think let's bring on the guests here. Okay, this is like I think we're in. I alluded to it earlier. We're almost in. I would say, the NBA season breaks down into many little nuggets, many little time periods. And this is kind of like the pre-ranking before the season starts time period. Teams are getting ranked. Acquisitions are getting ranked. Players are getting ranked. I think, SI's top 100 is probably the biggest one. But it seems like, all the major sports networks are doing it now. ESPN has done, I think, up to like 25 or something like that. But CBS Sports has done their top 100, and 5 Raptors, our 5 starters, all made the top 100. And I'm curious who you guys think is the most, let's say, ill-positioned. I'll just kind of list it off here quickly for anyone that's not familiar. But we got Gary Trent Jr. coming in at 75th overall. OG at 59th, Scottie Barnes at 48th, Fred VanVleet at 28th, And we got Pascal Siakam, spicy at 24th in the league. Let me start with you, Jay. Pick one of those 5 guys and tell me why their placement's wrong.
Well, Fred VanVleet's placement is wrong, only because you guys have a typo. He's actually 38th. But actually, let's point out.
Oh shoot, my bad.
Let's point out. I guess I'll take the easy one here. Pascal Siakam at 24th is a joke. I think that it's kind of funny how that Siakam is taking the mantle that DeMar DeRozan once held, not the mantle of being the best Raptors player and all NBA player and all-star player, but being the guy that gets ranked below Chris Middleton. So that continues year after year. Chris Middleton is always ranked above the best Raptor. But I think what's more egregious than all this is that he's even lower than Jaylen Brown. So if you were to ask any Celtics fan, actually, maybe I wouldn't ask a Celtics fan, is who would they rather have playing second fiddle to Jason Tatum? Would they rather have Jaylen Brown or would they rather have Pascal Siakam? And I'm pretty sure everyone outside of Boston would say Pascal Siakam's the guy you want. But he's ranked all the way up in 19th. So either way, I would say Pascal Siakam's the easy answer. He's way too low on this, but that's okay. That's just fuel for the fire. He'll just come out and have a top 20 season. He'll be all NBA all over again. And, lather, rinse, repeat with these rankings and Raptors players using it as motivation for the upcoming season.
Yeah, well said. And I feel like, there always is that caveat with these lists. It makes me think of like end of the year album lists on Pitchfork and that kind of stuff. It's sort of just to get people talking, right? And to get folks motivated, or as some Raptors fans believe on Twitter, it's meant to rile us up. It's meant to kind of like engage the Raptors fan base. And that's not the most far-fetched conspiracy, really, because it does work. Raptors fans do get, when they are slighted, they are activated. That's how Raptors fans roll. I do think you're totally correct. In that Siakam is the really easy choice here. That was my answer, but I got to back up. But yeah, I think sure you can factor in guys having guys that were unhealthy playing, certain guys having a bounce back year sort of thing. But it's not like Fred was an all-star, right? So that's what, top 25, top 30. But Siakam was all NBA. So that's top 15. So you put him at 24th and you're assuming he's going to have a down year. And that's in a year where he started injured. So yeah, I think that probably is the biggest or most slanderous thing on this list, I would say. But Ben, let's go to you. I don't want to take all the points here. Who's your guy?
Yeah, no, I'm a riled up Raptors fan looking at Scottie Barnes at 48. And I'm looking at this list. I'm looking at like Ben Simmons at 42. Ben Simmons sat out the whole year and is mentally probably not even prepared to play basketball. Or he's mentally and physically not even prepared, but somehow he's leapfrogged the Rookie of the Year. Talking about Rookie of the Year, we had Chad Cunningham coming in at 47th. I guess being the Rookie of the Year doesn't, leapfrog you the first overall pick. And I didn't get that. I think Scottie Barnes at 48 in the 40s, I think that's reasonable. But there's just a few of the players that I just don't kind of feel are of his caliber. And maybe, by this year, I could see Scottie Barnes going like skyrocketing up to like 35, 32, like within like a couple months of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Scottie was obviously electric. He's a Rookie of the Year campaign. And, I think you could argue that not, no rookies are usually on this list, but, going from being a rookie to jumping all the way to 48th is pretty huge. But also, if you, believe in Scottie that much, and I think there's a lot of reason to believe in Scottie, he's pretty talented, and there's some people thinking that he might be knocking on the all-star snub door. I'm not quite that high on Scottie. I think his placement is fair, but I also feel like I know where you're coming from, where there's a couple guys where a lot is assumed, as far as them being healthy and having bounce back years. And I think even if you're low on Scottie and you're like, oh, he's going to have a sophomore slump and he's going to struggle, he's in such a good atmosphere and he's on such a good team as far as chemistry and role that I can't really see him, having that much of a down year. He's also just like, he's a winner, right? He's going to find ways to improve. And I think, one of the best parts about Scottie is his personality. My guy was actually OG. So I think, again, like I'm a little bit different than a lot of people I hear, but I still think that OG is the third best player on the Raptors. And I think with some of the stuff we heard this summer, obviously it got blown out of proportion as far as like, OG wanting a trade. But I do think that he wants that bag. He wants the role. He wants to be a bigger star in this league. I don't think he's content in being like this 3-and-D, incredible player, right? Which he is, and I think he's proven that already. But I think he wants more, and I think he's, it's up to him. Nurse even said, like, I tell the guys on this team, grab the rebound, and it's your ball. You can kind of run the court and make decisions, and it's it's there for the taking for OG, and I think he intends to take it. But we'll see. Yeah, OG's ranking was where was it? I think it was 40. It was 59th. Is that what it was? Yeah. So 59th. I think OG could be under 40. Obviously, who like there's a lot of players for him to jump, and maybe I am being too high on OG there, but I just feel like he really, like from a developmental standpoint, he's 25. A lot of the kind of like intricacies of how people improve as a basketball player, I think he's in that good spot where he's going to do that.
He's going to put it all together this year. And I feel like this is the year where he comes together with all the tools. He's been on that championship team. He's 25. He's on the upswing. Like, I want to see OG average like 20, 22 points a game, and it's like easy for him. And I want him to not be like a 3D kind of guy. I want him to be able to slash to the bucket. I want him to start dunking on people. Like I want the like angry, mad OG, like the Kawhi OG, where he's like, I'm going to take over this game and I'm going to hit 6 threes and I'm going to dunk on 4 people and I'm going to play better defense than anybody on the floor. That's the OG I want to see this year.
Yeah, I mean, 6 threes and dunking on 4 people. Like, I'm into that. If that happens even once, I will be very, very happy. But you to your point, you averaged 17 points a year or a game last year, and I think Fred might facilitate more. I mean, Gary's going to put up shots, right? He's going to put up numbers, I think. But we've talked about it on the pod before. We'll see if the Gary versus Precious thing, like where that ends up, if we go Precious, if we go Gary. I think OG is starting, right? And I think he is one of the, for sure shooters on the team. So I think he's going to put up shots as well. But yeah,
and I agree. I agree with both of you. I agree with both of you in terms of what you're saying about OG and Ben. I would just add to your point there. If we want to see angry OG, I would just temper your expectations because his face is going to look exactly the same, whether he's angry or not. So that's all I'm saying is I think we will get it. I think his face will look exactly the same though.
And that's fine. And Kawhi taught him that. And I want that. I just want him to come in and just be aggressive and really just assert himself into the games. Cause he's going to be matched up with like Jimmy Butler, and like LeBron James, and he's going to have to contain these guys, but also kind of give, a little bit of his own mojo into those games as well. And the more he asserts himself, I think the more successful this team will be overall. And I think Gary Trent is a big part of this as well. Just in terms of his makeup, his mentality, he already has that, he already has that killer instinct. He can shoot with the best of them. I want a bit more of that from OG.
Yeah, well said. And I think for anyone out there that's, wanting to just like imagine this angry version of OG, or the sort of like, Zen version of OG. There's 2 clips for you. Watch him flipping Dennis Schroeder and not showing any emotion. That's the angry one. And the dunking one, he crowned Jimmy Butler in a really pivotal game last year. One of my favorite highlights of the year. But let's go to question number 2. Ben, I'm going to go to you first on this one. And this is sort of like, I want you to give me 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the Raptors bench, but also just tell me what you think about Juancho, Hernan Gomez kind of lighting it up in the Euro finals. I think it was 6 threes. There's a lot of catch and shoot action, 27 points. Does he crack the Raptors rotation? And tell me your 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Bo Cruz. This guy's very exciting. I don't know, something opened up my mind on Cruz with that game. Couple things. Yes, I've seen Hustle, and I think it's sick, and I think he's sick for playing that role, and I love how he played it, and I love Adam Sandler, and I love that movie. But what I love about his game is that he's a spot-up shooter, can get rebounds, block a couple shots. That's perfect for the Raptors system and for the personnel that's on the team as a guy that comes off the bench. And I'm not saying he's a starter, but I'm definitely saying he's one of the guys. He's one of the rotation guys that can come in and do what Boucher is doing, do what Precious is doing. Now, the real key here will be Precious Achiuwa. Does he come in and assert himself as, that missing piece and take that next step and kind of really eat up those minutes? That will affect Bo Cruz and his minutes. But I absolutely think he makes the opening day roster on some of these other guys. And I think, you look at Champagny, you look at Wilson, you look at some of these guys, they don't have the pedigree that Bo Cruz has. And so I like his upside out of all of the guys in the 905 right now. And I just kind of like him. I just like his swagger. I like that he's just won a championship, and I like his momentum going into training camp. So I really have him in there. I really do feel that Euro championship has secured his spot on the team. I'm not the GM, but I think so. In terms of, you look at Boucher, like I'm going to talk a little bit about Boucher later, but I'm expecting a lot of things from Boucher this year. And I really feel Boucher is going to come in and establish himself as basically the heart and soul of this Toronto Raptors team. Like he has the ability, and if he's given the playing time, like he's one of my guys in the entire league that has the potential to step up. And I know we're going to get to that question in a bit, but I really do like, so Precious, obviously Thad Young, Bo Cruz is, end of the line.
Who's your 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Give me the order here.
My 6th man of the year, if it goes that way, would be Gary Trent Jr.
Okay, so Gary's first off the bench for you?
He's the first guy off the bench coming in for OG. And then like you've got to look at kind of your backup point guard position. So you got to look at Flynn and Danton. You got to have a backup guard. And I don't believe in this Pascal and Scottie Barnes running the backup. I believe in Scottie Barnes being your backup. But I think you got to make a decision there. So I think Flynn right now is your backup guard.
Okay.
I really do think he's the guy. If you're going to do that, out of those 2 options, I like Flynn more as a playmaker and a shooter. I do like the defense, and I do like having a long defender. I see that as your 3rd backup guard. But here's the thing with that. I think Scottie Barnes is better than all of them. So there's a part of me that's like, I kind of want Scottie Barnes to start at the point guard position. Like if you're going to do it, like do it. You get your next Magic Johnson. But I'm torn on that. And, with Pascal, like he's top 3 passer on the team. So,
Yeah.
but you can't make him your point guard. But if nobody else is living up to that responsibility, you got to put Pascal in there because he's going to make the right decisions. So I'm torn on that. But Bo Cruz for sure, Gary Trent, Precious Achua, Chris Boucher, Thad Young, no doubt.
Yeah, that's I think you hit on a lot of good points there. And who shares sort of the point guard duty, the passing duties on this team is going to be a theme to watch all year, right? Scottie can pass and transition. Obviously, I would say Pascal, is probably the second best passer on the team after Fred. Thad can pass. Does Flynn kind of crack the rotation? It's interesting that you brought him up. He's someone I'm interested in because it's, does he sort of break up this 6'9" vision? Does he give Fred relief minutes? Jay, I'm going to go to you. I think we can all agree that at this point, Bo Cruz looks like he's going to be on the team. Do you think he kind of cracks the rotation? Like, is he playing every night? Who's your, first off the bench? Who's your 6, 7, 8, 9, 10?
I guess first of all, I don't see Hernan Gomez. I see him making the roster. I don't see him cracking the regular rotation. The way I've divided up is I see a definitive top 9, and then there's a bit of a drop off there too, and I would clump them together as your end of bench guys, which does include Hernan Gomez, but I have him down as like end of the bench. So if we want to compare something to, let's say, the Raptors championship roster, your 11th, 12th man there in terms of getting minutes is your Jody Meeks, Jeremy Lin type. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about Juancho, right? When we look at how this roster is going to shake out, you have your starters, and I get it. If you want to put Gary Trent on the bench and put Precious in there in as a replacement, as a starter, then all the power to you. I'm good either way in terms of having Precious and or Gary Trent as the starter or sixth man. So the sixth man then would then be one of those two because the other would be the starter. 7, 8, 9 have them all clumped together, really, and that's Thad, Boucher, and Otto Porter Jr. We're in a stretch now where, yes, you mentioned it already, Ben. Like, we're like hardcore into this Vision 6-9 here, but if we've learned anything from Nurse, he definitely goes against the grain, right? And Masai is going against the grain in how he's constructed this roster. So who says that the Raptors have to have a backup point guard coming in for Fred VanVleet? You've already mentioned it. Siakam can handle the ball. Scottie can handle the ball. Why is it that we have to replace Fred with a guard? Why can't we spread the minutes out and play around with the rotation so that if Fred's not in bringing up the ball, then it is Pascal, then it is Scottie. It's just a matter of how Nurse plays around with his rotation. So that's why at 9 with Otto Porter Jr., that's where it cuts off for me. And then the next batch is either matchup dependent. So, for example, if you need someone a bit beefier, you bring in Birch. Or if you need another point guard, if Fred's having an off night or if he has a day off, for example, then you bring in a Malachi Flynn or Delano Benton based off of the matchup. Justin Champagny, Christian Coloco, Hernan Gomez, they're all your end of bench, break in case of emergency, use them in garbage time, use them if you're going through some injuries. But really, for me, it cuts off at Porter Jr. And Flynn has to prove something to me to show that he's worth more minutes, to show that he is, okay, he's the first guy we'll go to when Fred needs a break. Right now, he's not there. So right now, I'd rather give those minutes to someone, the point guard duty minutes, to someone that I trust more, and that's Pascal, and that's Scottie, right? Than giving it to Flynn, hoping that he kind of figures it out, or Delano while he continues to work his reps in with the 905. So that's kind of where it is for me. It stops at 9. I don't really have a 10th there.
I want to jump in on that as well because I agree with that wholeheartedly. I like to look at some of these end of bench guys as prospects. As kind of, like when I'm talking about Bo Cruz, I'm not talking about Bo Cruz kind of like on the rotation in this year. I'm talking about the fact that he's 26. He's going to go into our system with Champagny and could potentially be future assets. I do think they're still young enough that there could be, kind of like untapped potential when you think of like a Boucher, a Terrence Davis, a Fred VanVleet, some of these guys that go into the system and are kind of like, gems down the line. That's what I see our end of bench, and that's what I'm evaluating these guys on. In terms of rotation, absolutely. Like you can't go past that 9. You've got Otto Porter coming in here. He's going to make it very tough on OG, on Gary Trent, because he can shoot the 3, he can play defense, and he just won a chip. So the Raptors rotation is very exciting right now, and I just I like to chat about some of these end of rotation guys just to kind of see what they could be.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's the fun of this year for me. That's sort of why I'm super high on the Raptors as a regular season team. I think, even with certain injuries, obviously a knock on wood, hopefully we don't get anything major, but I think there's a lot of talent that's ready to slot in and give good productive minutes. And, to your point, Jay, I think there is a, break glass in case of emergency. I think there's a lot of guys that they're quite ready to do so. And I think, the 9 makes sense to me. I still sort of have, I think I'm maybe in the bit of the minority here, but I like the idea of Precious as the 6th man. I kind of liked it when, 6 and 7 is Precious and Chris, and it's like they just come in and they are just injecting an intensity and energy to the game. I do think, both you guys brought up, rightfully so, that Otto is someone who might push a lot of this, because of shooting. Does he end up being the 6th man? Is he the 7th man? Like, how far can you ended up starting for the Warriors for, a big chunk of the playoffs and the finals. So bringing Otto off the bench, even, I'm sure he's comfortable with the role, but he's equipped to be a starter, clearly. Right. And then I think where I don't know if I'm disagreeing here, but I just think that Thaddeus Young is in that veteran point where I could see him being okay with, not necessarily playing every game, like managing his season. But I also feel like Thad is so good, he might end up like closing the odd game because he's such a veteran and kind of, can do a lot of weird, tricky things and flicks, and he gets what this team needs. I'm also not out on Kem Birch. So I feel like Kem can still do a lot of rim rolling and things that this team needs. And I think where, I'll just cap this off, Jay, is, you said it really concisely about that end of the bench, after 9 is like, there's just a lot of, that's where I think you're going to see Nurse use a lot of different options. Right. And yeah, everyone's short of, I don't know, like Champagne, I think has a way in there. And maybe I'm even, being too dismissive of Champagne because like, hey, if the shooting that we saw in the G League was for real, then, he's a good offensive rebounder. He fits a lot of what this team needs. So maybe he finds a way, but I think we're really, we might not have the most devastating starting lineup. We don't, but I do think that we're just going to be able to bring in guys after guys that are legit rotation quality players in the NBA. I do want to wrap this baby up. So let me go to you first, Ben. Let people know where they can find you and, where to check you out, what shows you got going on, and give the old fashioned plug.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Well, I have a comedy album, Good in You. It's a comedy experience by Ben Norman Davies. I'm a host of Gluten-Free Comedy and Broken Dreams Comedy. Gluten-Free Comedy you can find at Comedy Bar. Broken Dreams Comedy you can find in the Annex at the Comedy Lab. I'm a father of 2. I'm very proud. And my basketball jump shot is coming back, and I'm very proud of that as well.
Huge. Jay, what's up? Where can people find you? Where can they check out your work?
Again, I got to say, before I go to this, Freddie, thanks for having me on. It's always a fun time joining your pod. My podcast, That's a Wrap. We're record every Friday. Usually comes out Friday afternoon, Friday evenings. You can also catch my writing at Raptors HQ, where I usually do my weekly wrap up of the games ahead for the Raptors. So you can look for that throughout the season. And that is me. I'm not going to plug my children because they're not listening.
Very fair. Well, I will just say thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this podcast, helping it grow. Rate, subscribe, review, all that stuff, comment. Maddie D, if you feel like we're done and we're good to go, please just give me those words I love so much. Okay.
Okay. Listen to full episodes of the Confederacy of Dunks only on the Rapcast.